Okay, the next level of income to kind of talk about this is people who are making around $50,000.
So there's a good chance that if your income is around $50,000, you're probably at the beginning of your career. Perhaps you're the beginning of a new career, just starting out, thinking about how am I going to begin building financial independence. Paying the bills may not be the same type of issue that it once was, but you are still trying to think, okay, how do I start building for the future? And how do I make sure I'm making wise decisions right now?
Well, I do think this is, if you're at the beginning of your career, you're younger, and this is where your path is not well laid for you yet. And a lot of people fall into traps where they're not developing good habits, they're actually developing bad habits. And if you need some proof in that, we have some stats on credit card use, but the biggest thing I want people to know is you've got to start training your brain to get beyond the present bias of instant gratification. Yes, it feels good to go buy stuff for yourself or to go shopping or do consumption habits. But I'm telling you, if you can take just a little bit of today for that better and more beautiful tomorrow, it's going to pay off exponentially. That's what we call deferred gratification. Get out of the YOLO lifestyle and start building that great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people do the exact opposite. Instead of sacrificing a little bit of today for a better tomorrow, they start borrowing from tomorrow for a better today.
Yeah.
Listen to this, 57% of median income Americans, that's folks that make around $70,000, that's the 40th to 59th percentile, have credit card debt. And the average balance of those at that income is almost $6,000. Now, that's not folks that are paying it off every month. Those are folks that are carrying a balance. If you are carrying a balance on a credit card, you are living beyond your means. You are not practicing deferred gratification. You have to figure out how to get that credit card debt knocked out so that you're not borrowing from your future self.
So let's talk about how do you actually get ahead then. And a big part of this is, and I've already kind of alluded to this, is we've got to make the bad consumption habits hard. Bo, how do we do that?
Yeah, so learn how to build these. Think in terms of true cost. Think in terms of, okay, if I'm going to make this decision, what's it really going to cost me? It's really easy. We all think that we can afford anything in the world 1 month at a time. If I'm only going to pay $9 a month for this service or for this item or for this, buy it now, pay for it later, I need to think that, hey, that $9 a month actually is going to cost me over $100 a year. Is there something better that I could be doing with that $100? So whenever you enter into a consumption decision, think about the true all-in cost, not just the point-in-time cost today.
One of the easiest ways that this really clicked for me, and we've tried to create a resource for all of our audience. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, you can download your wealth multiplier. And here's the biggest thing. Once you realize what the potential of every dollar that you earn can become, you just look at consumption and spending completely different. And just to give you some examples, if you're someone who's 20 years old, you know that every dollar has the potential to become $88. For somebody who's 25, every dollar has the potential to become $44. And for the 30-something, every dollar at 30 has the potential to become $23. You're just going to look at things a lot differently. You gave the example, Bo, of somebody who has $9 a month. If you think about that, it's close to $100. That $100 in the future at retirement could be the equivalent of $10,000 at retirement. We're talking about little tiny slivers that could be weeks, if not years, of actual retirement in your future. You'll spend a little bit different if you just have that knowledge. It lets you break through and kind of have the first building blocks of building that financial mutant mindset.
And as you begin to think about that, what you're going to recognize is you're going to start being able to easily differentiate between the things that you need and the things that you want. And you'll recognize, maybe I don't need that nicer car. Maybe I don't need those fancy clothes. Maybe I don't need the fill in the blank. And you will begin to make decisions and decide that what I want is actually a brighter tomorrow instead of a better looking, fancier today. And it will reframe the way that you go about consuming.
Yeah, as we say on the show all the time, it's so much better to be rich than just to look rich. So use some of our free resources. Let me go ahead and load you up. If you go to moneyguy.com/resources, the first starting block, the financial order of operations. Go download the 9 steps. I also want you to understand, 25% housing. A lot of people, it's your decisions on the big stuff, your housing, your vehicles. Those are the things that you're going to have to try to balance out. How big is your lifestyle so that you can build on the good habits of saving for the future?
I love it, Brian. You're already laying out the guardrails. Like, how do we know the things and the frames where we should stay aligned? The first one you mentioned was great, following the financial order of operations, making sure that I know exactly what I'm doing with my next dollar. And one of the things that you'll recognize as you're working through the financial order of operations is that one of the single best things that you can do for your future self is begin saving and investing 25% of what you make today. If I can save 25% today for the future, I'm going to give my future self options to live the life that I want to live on my terms.
Yeah, and I've already mentioned keeping your housing below 25%. And then last, 23.8 is another big one. That's your cars. I want you to put down, look, cash is always the preferred choice. If you can pay cash for your vehicles, do it. But remember, most people who are at the $50,000 level, you're at the beginning of your journey. I've been there. Bo's been there. So I know right now you probably just need that reliable transportation to get you to your job. That's going to be your biggest wealth builder initially, is getting to your job on time so you can earn wages and turn those wages into investments that turn into growing assets. So 20% down. Don't finance longer than 3 years and no greater than 8% of your gross income. That is going to help you. And then the final point on consumption, the bridge to nowhere, is credit card debt, because it lets you fake it until you make it. And you feel like, hey, no big deal. I'll get a pay raise in a few months or next year, and I'll just pay it all back then. There are so many opportunity costs, so many things that are lost with credit card debt, because most of the time, interest rates on credit card debts are greater than 20%. And we've even seen people, like when we were on Caleb's show, greater than 30%.
It's insane.
Guys, if you were paying somebody 3 times what you hope you make on your investments, you will never get ahead. So credit card use is okay, but credit card debt, no way. So if you're carrying any balance whatsoever on a credit card, it's no-go land. Stay the heck away.
What's beautiful is that when you are young, when you are early on in your journey, time is on your side. We talk all the time about how there are 3 ingredients to wealth creation. You have to have discipline, you have to have a little bit of money, and you have to have time to be able to implement your plan. Well, what's beautiful is if you can figure out saving and investing early, a little bit goes a long way. And so we wanted to show you that if your goal were to replace 80% of your pre-retirement income, and you were going to start saving today, and on your savings and investments, you could make 6% rate of return, how much would you need to start saving of today's income, starting at 0, to be able to replace 80% of your pre-retirement income for life, in perpetuity? Well, for a 20-year-old, the savings rate required to do that is only 8.7%. For a 25-year-old, if you can save 12% of your gross pay, you'll likely be able to replace 80% of your pre-retirement income. And for a 30-year-old, it's 17%. So if you can just make the decision to save 17% of your gross income, you are well on your way to replacing a huge portion of your pre-retirement income. A little bit can go a long way, especially if you're starting out at the beginning of your career.
I don't want you to lose focus on what this illustration is showing you. We on purpose tried to slow down the growth, or to be ultra conservative. That's why we used a 6% annual rate of return. That's why we're using only 80%, is because I want you to see just so little. This is to break through the YOLOs that are saying, man, life is so hard. I don't make enough money. Yes, you do. Just start rolling that small little pebble down the mountain so it can catch up momentum and start growing upon itself. If you can save just 8% when you're 20, if you can save 12% when you're 25, guys, this is doable. This is the same type of stuff when I was working at Hardee's all throughout high school that lit the fire in me, is that a little goes a long way when you have that all so powerful time working in your benefit.